Hello and welcome to the finals of the Clutch Chess International Chess Tournament, and today we are going to analyze the fourth game played between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. The third game, as you saw in my previous video, was won by Magnus Carlsen. So now Caruana is playing white and Carlsen is playing with the black pieces. So now playing with the white pieces, Fabi opens with e4 and c5 replies Carlsen, and now knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. We are now having a Sicilian defense Rosalimo attack on the board, and now e6 by Carlsen. Now bishop takes the c6, knight, now b into c6, d3 for the developing his pieces, queen to c7, and Fabi castles, knight to e7, Carlsen also further developing his pieces, and h4 by Fabi, and now e5, Carlsen plays e5 and h5, Fabi is further developing his h5 pawn. Now Carlsen seems to develop his own pieces. He plays d6, and now knight to h2, knight to g8, and now comes f4, and then knight to f6. Fabi takes the pawn on e5, and d takes e5. Now h6 by Fabi. Now Carlsen seems to be interested in developing his pieces rather than he's not worried about the h6 pawn, the further development of his Fabi's h6 pawn. So what Carlsen plays here is bishop to e6. Now h takes the g7 pawn, bishop takes g7, and now bishop to g5, and now knight to d7 by Carlsen. Now knight to d2 and h5. Here Carlsen does not want the knight on h2 to come on g4, so he plays h5 instead of playing h6 and attacking the bishop on g5. So in reply, here what Fabi plays is queen to e1 and f6. Now Carlsen attacks the bishop on g5 by playing f6. Now bishop to h4, and here Carlsen decides to castle on the queen side. Now king to h1, now bishop to h6, now knight to c4 for the developing Fabi's pieces, and now comes bishop to f4, b4. Here Carlsen decides to take the knight on c4, bishop into c4, and d takes the c4 bishop. Rook h to g8. Carlsen is also planning to launch an attack on the king side. Now Fabi replies with knight to f3. C takes the b4 pawn. Now queen takes b4, bishop to e3. Carlsen has played a defensive move here. Now rook a b1, further consolidating his position. Now Carlsen goes for the a5, attacking the queen. Now queen goes to e7. Now rook d to e8, further attacking the queen, and now queen plays h7. Here Carlsen wants to trade the queens, so he plays knight to c5, offering the trading of queens, but Fabi is not interested in trading the queens, so he plays queen to f5 check. Now again Carlsen wants to trade, so Carlsen plays queen to d7. Now bishop to f6, bishop into f6. So finally Carlsen decides to trade. He takes the queen on f5. Now e into f5, knight to d7, attacking the bishop on f6. Now rook b e1, counter-attacking the bishop on e3. So here Carlsen decides to take the bishop on f6, knight into f6, and rook into e3. And now comes knight to g4, attacking the rook on e3. And here Carlsen plays rook to e4, rook g f8. Carlsen is planning to take the knight on f5. Now Fabi plays knight to e1, supporting the pawn, and now knight to h6, further attacking the pawn on f5 with knight. So here Fabi plays f6, promoting his pawn, and now comes knight to g4 and knight to d3 by Fabi, attacking the pawn on e5. Now Carlsen decides to take the pawn, the f6 pawn, knight into f6, now rook into e5, and here knight again to g4, knight to g4, attacking the rook. So here Fabi decides to trade the rooks. Rook takes f8, rook into f8, and now rook into f8. Now rook to e1, preventing Carlsen from playing rook to f1 check. After rook to e1, Carlsen plays rook to d8. Now rook to e4, king to c7, bringing the king into the game, and g3, rook to f8, king to g2. Fabi also bringing his king into the game by playing king to g2, and now rook to f5, knight to f4, and now king to d6. Now here Fabi decides to take the h5 pawn, knight into h5. This knight is under threat, so rook into h5, rook into g4, king to c5, a3 and a4, rook to e4 and rook to h8, g4. Fabi is having a strong pass pawn, further developing his pawn. So this position is good for Fabi. Fabi is having the advantage. Now Carlsen plays rook to d8 and now g5. Fabi is interested in promoting his pawn. Now rook to d2 check. Carlsen doing everything that he can to stop further promotion. So here Fabi plays king to f3. Now rook into c2 and g6, and rook to c3 check. It was in this position on move 50 that Carlsen resigned the game, because he cannot prevent the promotion of this pawn. This Fabi can easily promote his pawn on g6, and it was in this position Magnus resigned. So it was an interesting game. So hope you all enjoyed.